The story begins in a dangerous prison in Colorado, where we are introduced to a prisoner named Ray. One day, his cellmate comes to him and warns that another inmate is planning to attack him the following morning. However, before that inmate can make his move, Ray strikes first and brutally beats him. Just as Ray is about to continue the assault, the prison guards rush in and take him to a section reserved for the most dangerous prisoners. Ray is locked inside a completely sealed isolation room that contains nothing except a toilet and several surveillance cameras. These cameras monitor him 24 hours a day. Over the next few days, Ray carefully studies the guards' routines and notices that the two guards in the camera control room leave their post every day for exactly 7 minutes to smoke. Using toilet paper, Ray creates several small balls and hides them inside more toilet paper. During lunch, he receives a milk packet and secretly keeps the transparent plastic sheet from it. The next day, after being returned to his room, Ray asks a guard for the exact time. The guard tells him that it is 5 minutes before 4 p.m. Ray begins counting from 1 to 10. At that exact moment, a woman arrives at the prison in a car. Meanwhile, the two guards from the camera room are outside having their daily smoke break. Seconds later, the woman's car explodes, putting the entire prison on high alert. Security guards rush everywhere, and prisoners outside are ordered back into their cells. A guard soon arrives at Ray's room, only to discover that Ray has vanished. At the same time, Ray is secretly hiding underneath a fire brigade vehicle. Taking advantage of the chaos, he slips into a black car waiting nearby. It is then revealed that the people inside the car, Abigail and Hush, are actually Ray's friends. After driving some distance, they drop Ray off and hand him a coin that he is supposed to use to make a phone call. Ray uses the coin to call a number and says only 2 words: showtime. Within moments, police vehicles surround him and arrest him. During the arrest, a man arrives at the scene. This man turns out to be Lester, Ray's business partner. Somehow, Lester manages to get Ray released. Afterward, Ray and Lester meet the prison's warden. It is revealed that Ray is not a criminal at all. Instead, he is the owner of Breslin Security, a company that specializes in testing prison security systems around the world. Ray intentionally enters prisons, identifies their weaknesses, and helps improve their security so real criminals cannot escape. The warden asks Ray how he managed to escape. Ray explains that escaping any prison requires 3 things: layout, routine, and outside help. According to Ray, once you understand the prison's layout, its weaknesses become obvious. To reach the isolation ward, where there were fewer guards, he deliberately created enemies for himself. He then spent days studying the guards' routines and discovered that the camera room guards left their station for 7 minutes every day. Ray also prepared a coded letter for his team. Although it looked like an ordinary letter, it secretly contained information about the exact date and time of his planned escape. He explains that he used the transparent plastic sheet from the milk packet to lift fingerprints from the lock's keypad. The sheet captured 4 fingerprints from a guard. Meanwhile, the toilet paper balls he had created were stuffed into the food hatch, preventing it from closing completely. Taking advantage of this weakness, Ray used the fingerprint information to access the system and escape. Once free, he entered the camera room and replayed footage from several minutes earlier, ensuring nobody would notice his escape immediately. He had only 1 minute to complete everything. He quickly changed into a fire brigade uniform and, during the confusion caused by Abigail's car explosion, escaped the prison hidden inside a vehicle. The warden is left completely shocked after hearing the full explanation. Several months later, Ray returns to the offices of Breslin Security. There, a woman named Jessica arrives. She has been sent by an agent from the Central Intelligence Agency. Ray informs Lester that he personally requested her presence. Jessica offers Ray a new mission. Instead of the originally promised amount, he will now receive $5 million. However, there is one condition. The location of the prison will not be disclosed beforehand. Initially, Ray refuses, but Lester eventually convinces him to accept the assignment. Soon, Ray and his team arrive in New Orleans. Hush shows Ray his new fake identity, which lists him as Anthony Portos. He is informed that he will be transferred through a federal facility in New Orleans and accused of manufacturing bombs that were used throughout Europe and South Australia over the past 10 years. Hush also gives Ray an evacuation code. If anything goes wrong, he can tell the code to Warden Roger Marsh and be immediately extracted from the prison. Once everything is ready, Hush secretly implants a tiny tracking device into Ray's body so the team can monitor his location. However, while Ray is waiting, a black vehicle suddenly abducts him. The kidnappers remove the tracker from his body, causing the signal to disappear. They then inject him with a drug that renders him unconscious. When Ray wakes up, he finds himself inside a glass cell. Everywhere around him are similar transparent cells containing prisoners. The facility appears impossible to escape from. Ray is eventually brought before Warden Hobbs, who becomes him and assigns him prisoner number 7458. Ray immediately asks where Warden Marsh is. Hobbs calmly replies that there is no Warden Marsh in this prison. Realizing something is wrong, Ray gives Hobbs the emergency evacuation code, but Hobbs refuses to honor it and tells Ray that escaping this prison is impossible and that he will remain there permanently. Meanwhile, Ray's team desperately tries to locate him, but they are unable to find any trace of his whereabouts. During the prisoner's recreation period, Ray leaves his glass cell and enters the central yard. There, he witnesses guards mercilessly beating a prisoner. The inmates are routinely abused without reason. The sight unsettles Ray. A group of prisoners soon approaches him looking for a fight. fight. Ray demonstrates his combat skills and brutally defeats their leader. At that moment, another inmate arrives. His name is Emil Rottmayer. He orders the others to back away from Ray. Emil offers Ray a handshake, but Ray refuses. Emil explains that he once worked for a man named Victor Mannheim and that the prison authorities have been trying to locate him. However, Emil claims that he has refused to reveal any information. The following day, Ray carefully examines every detail of his glass cell. Emil notices that ever since arriving, Ray has been observing the prison with extraordinary attention. Later, during recreation time, Ray studies the guards. All of them wear identical uniforms and masks that completely cover their faces. When Emil approaches him, he asks what exactly Ray is looking for. Ray replies that he wants to be transferred to the isolation area. Emil tells him that it is time to return a favor. Without warning, Emil attacks Ray. A fierce fight breaks out between them until guards intervene and incapacitate both men with electric shock devices. They are dragged away and thrown into isolation boxes. Moments later, powerful lights inside the boxes are activated. These lights generate intense heat, causing severe physical pain. While trapped inside, Ray notices several metal vents installed within the structure. Shortly afterward, a doctor arrives to examine him. Ray tries to question the doctor about the prison, but the doctor refuses to tell Ray anything. As the doctor leaves, one of the guards asks him what Ray had been asking about. The doctor lies and says that Ray was only asking about dehydration. A short while later, both Ray and Emil are released from the isolation ward. Emil asks Ray whether he found anything useful in there. Ray replies that he can get Emil out of the prison, but only if Emil brings him a piece of metal. Emil agrees and promises to find one for him. The next day, Emil is brought before the warden. The warden questions him about Victor Mannheim's location because Emil used to work for Victor. However, Emil refuses to reveal any information about him. As a result, the warden tortures him. Before the guards take Emil away, he manages to secretly hide a small piece of metal. Later that same day, he meets Ray and hands it over. Curious about Ray, Emil asks who he really is. Ray explains that breaking out of prisons is his profession. He has successfully escaped from 14 prisons, and because of his experience and the book he wrote, Hobbs designed this prison specifically to be escape-proof. Ray then tells Emil that he will need to get sent back into isolation again. Emil immediately refuses, but Ray insists that if he truly wants to escape, he must do exactly what he says. Eventually, Emil agrees. The following day, during lunch, Emil deliberately starts a fight with a prisoner Nums, Ed Javid. The conflict quickly escalates, and soon multiple inmates are fighting each other. The guards rush in and throw everyone into separate isolation boxes. Taking advantage of the situation, Ray begins removing the metal grates inside his isolation box. One by one, he successfully loosens all of them. At the right moment, he signals Emil, who starts screaming loudly to distract the guards and draw their attention away from Ray. Using the opportunity, Ray climbs down through the opening. However, while making his way down, he accidentally breaks a water pipe, causing the area to flood. After struggling through the pipe system, Ray finally emerges outside. What he sees leaves him stunned. The prison is not located on land at all. Instead, it is situated in the middle of the ocean. There is absolutely no visible route for escape. Realizing the danger, Ray immediately returns through the same route and carefully reinstalls all the grates so nobody will suspect anything. When he is finally released from isolation, Emil asks if the mission was successful. Ray confirms that it was. Emil then asks where they are. Ray replies, "I don't know." Meanwhile, Abigail and Hush arrive to meet Lester and hand him a payment check that has already been frozen. Abigail demands to know where Ray is, but Lester claims he has no idea. Back at the prison, the warden asks a guard where the security breach occurred. The guard informs him that it happened beneath Box 2. The warden immediately realizes that Anthony Portos was being held there. What the warden doesn't know is that Anthony Portos is actually Ray operating under a false identity. The prison authorities were only given Ray's fake profile. When the warden personally inspects Ray's box, he discovers several loose grates. This immediately raises his suspicion. However, one of the guards explains that corrosion and strong water pressure must have loosened them. The warden reluctantly accepts the explanation. Elsewhere, Lester reveals the entire truth about Ray to the people behind the operation. He explains that Ray has escaped from 14 prisons and insists that if Ray cannot escape from this facility, nobody can. Lester also tells them to focus on Emil because he is the only person who knows Victor Mannheim's whereabouts. If they can locate Victor, major banking corporations will pay enormous amounts of money because Victor created an extremely dangerous program capable of disrupting the entire global banking system. Meanwhile, the guards brutally beat Ray inside the prison. They are torturing him in the hope that he will lose his determination and abandon any plans of escape. However, Emil encourages him to stay strong. He tells Ray not to give up and reminds him that he has to break this prison. Ray then reveals part of his past. He explains that he was once a lawyer who helped send a dangerous man to prison. That man swore revenge and spent 3 years planning both his escape and his revenge. Eventually, he succeeded in murdering Ray's family. Since that day, Ray has dedicated his life to this work. Emil tells him that he now has a chance to get justice. He explains that Ray has only two choices: either die inside this prison or escape with him and punish the people responsible for putting him there. Those words reignite Ray's determination. Together, Ray and Emil begin carefully studying the guards' routine. routines. They even assign nicknames to different guards to keep track of them. Ray tells Emil that before they can escape, they first need to determine their exact location. According to Ray, only the doctor might know where they are. During lunch, Emil secretly stabs Ray with a small knife so that he will be taken to the medical facility. Once there, Ray asks the doctor where they are being held. The doctor refuses to answer. Suddenly, Ray collapses to the floor and secretly steals a syringe and a piece of paper. Later, during lunch, Emil gives Ray a pen. Using the paper, pen, and syringe, Ray begins constructing a measuring device. Unfortunately, the warden notices Ray's suspicious behavior through the surveillance cameras. Guards immediately seize Ray and drag him to the warden's office. The warden welcomes him once again and informs him that they now know exactly who he is. Ray demands to be released. The warden responds by proudly explaining that he built this prison using the principles from Ray's own book. Because of that, escaping from this facility is impossible. Ray then changes tactics. He tells the warden that he can provide information about Victor Mannheim because Emil will never reveal anything. Ray claims that he alone can deliver what the warden truly wants. Intrigued, the warden agrees to listen. He tells Ray that he must reveal everything about Victor Mannheim, his identity, his location, where he is currently hiding, and every conversation that has taken place between Ray and Emil. Only then will he. The warden finally agrees and tells Ray that if he provides all the information about Victor Mannheim, he will allow him to leave this place. After returning, Ray secretly tells Emil that he is actually deceiving the warden. Ray explains that the device he previously created must now be given to Javed. He instructs Emil to teach Javed exactly how to use it because the guards would never suspect Javed. A little later, Emil approaches Javed and tells him that if he wants to escape from the prison, he must help them with an important task. Javed agrees and officially joins Ray's escape plan. The next day, Javed goes to the warden and informs him that Ray and Emil are preparing to escape. However, Javed says that he will reveal everything only if the warden fulfills one of his. Javed explains that he wants to spend some time in his cell under the open sky so that he can pray to his god. The warden agrees to the request. That night, Javed sits alone beneath the open sky. Taking advantage of the opportunity, he uses the measuring device to calculate the prison's location. The following day, Emil passes the marked information to Ray. After analyzing the measurements, Ray concludes that they are somewhere near Morocco. Emil then tells Ray that he knows a man on the outside who can help them. The problem, however, is figuring out how to send their location to him. To solve this issue, Ray once again approaches the doctor and somehow convinces him to help. Meanwhile, Ray gives the warden a completely false location for Victor Mannheim. The warden is pleased and believes that he is finally getting closer to his target. Shortly afterward, Ray informs Emil that they now have only 24 hours before the warden discovers that everything they told him was a lie. Ray then asks Emil whether he knows anyone in cell block C. At the same time, Javed provides the warden with a fake escape plan prepared by Ray. The warden begins monitoring them closely from the camera room. While watching the surveillance footage, the warden notices Ray writing strange symbols and codes with the suspicious. He starts reviewing Ray's book and eventually discovers a tap code table. After decoding the message, he believes that Ray and Emil are planning to escape through cell block C. Immediately, the warden increases security throughout cell block C. Meanwhile, the doctor successfully sends the prison's location to Emil's outside contact. However, Ray, Emil, and Javed have no intention of escaping through cell block C. Their real destination is cell block A. The entire plan was designed to trick the warden into moving most of his guards to the wrong location. Once they reach cell block A, Javed, Ray, and Emil deliberately start fighting each other to create a distraction. Using the chaos to their advantage, they make their way upward toward the cargo section of the facility. As soon as Ray reaches the upper level, he locates the security cameras and disables them. The warden can no longer see what they are doing. Realizing something is wrong, the warden immediately orders a complete lockdown of the cargo area. Heavy security doors begin closing throughout the facility. Unfortunately, the exit route closes just before Ray, Emil, and Javed can reach it. As a result, Ray is forced to retreat. Meanwhile, outside the prison, Emil's friend arrives in a helicopter to assist with the escape. During the retreat, Javed is shot and badly wounded. The three men manage to hide inside a room. At that moment, Javed loses hope. He tells Ray and Emil that this is where his journey ends and that he can go no farther. To escape, someone must disable the cargo area's power system. Ray volunteers and heads off alone to shut down the electricity. Before Ray leaves, Emil urges Javed to continue with them. However, Javed refuses. He takes Emil's gun, says his final goodbye, and prepares to make his last stand. Moments later, guards arrive and kill Javed. Meanwhile, Ray reaches the engine room and successfully cuts power to the entire cargo section. At the same time, Emil manages to get outside the ship and eliminates several guards one after another. The warden and his men continue searching desperately for Ray. However, Ray is hiding inside a large water tank. Eventually, one of the guards restores power to the cargo section, forcing Ray to leave his hiding place. With no other option, Ray jumps from the cargo structure into the ocean below. Fortunately, Emil spots him. From the helicopter, he lowers a rope ladder, allowing Ray to survive. But just as Ray is climbing to safety, the warden arrives and opens fire on him. In response, Ray Ray shoots several nearby oil tanks. A massive explosion erupts across the facility. The warden and all of his remaining guards are killed in the blast. At last, Ray and Emil successfully escape. Later, the two men are standing on a beach in Morocco when a car arrives. Jessica steps out and finally reveals the truth. She explains that Emil Rottmayer is actually Victor Mannheim. Jessica knew that only one man in the world could rescue her father from such a prison, and that man was Ray Breslin. That is why she arranged the entire mission. Ray also learns that Emil Rottmayer was merely a code name designed to help Victor's team identify him if they ever located him. Similarly, Ray had been given the code name Anthony Portos so that Victor would immediately recognize that Jessica had sent him. That is why Victor tried to befriend Ray the moment he heard the name Anthony Portos. Ray finally realizes that he was never sent to test the prison's security. The Eel mission was to break Victor Mannheim out of the prison. A few days later, Ray meets Abigail. She reveals another shocking truth. If Ray had failed to escape, Lester would have been promoted to become the CEO of the prison operation. Ray immediately understands where Lester is. As Lester attempts to flee, Ray's friend Hush is already waiting inside his car. Hush quickly knocks Lester unconscious. When Lester finally wakes up, he discovers that he has been locked inside a shipping container. He begins screaming for help, but nobody can hear him. The container is sitting aboard a massive cargo ship, and escaping from it is nearly impossible. And with Lester trapped inside the very kind of prison he helped create, the movie comes to an end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to our channel, Filmy Nest.